most of us who are interested in implicit cognition come at it through a particular path. Here's the problem. Why is it that reported bias in the world has significantly come down? When you ask people, they will tell you that they do not harbor any prejudices against people who are members of other groups. We believe in fairness, we believe in egalitarianism, we believe in the rights of other people. So all of this, our values have been improving. And yet, when we look at the state of the world, we see variations by group in access to everything from education, jobs, healthcare, the manner in which law enforcement treats people. So the question for us is, how do we make sense of this disparity? On the one hand, we seem to care about fairness and egalitarianism. On the other hand, something about our behavior isn't quite leading us to that goal. So we ask the question, what could it be? And one of the answers is that it's possible that we're biased in ways we don't even know. That was the origin of the concept of implicit bias, and the Implicit Association Test is one measure of that bias. A bias is one particular way in which we might respond, but human beings are incredibly adaptive. Just think about your grandparents and their grandparents and their grandparents. Their views and ours are not like each other's at all. We look like different species to each other. And yet, our brain is the very same brain. The anatomy of the brain is the same. And yet, if you look across generations, our attitudes and our beliefs have changed substantially. So the answer to your question is, to the question, can we change, is absolutely, we have changed. The question of how to go about it is a very interesting one that would take me hours to explain to you. If one is interested in education, which is the term I use, not training, we know that any kind of mandatory training or mandatory education always fails. My colleague, Frank Dobbin, and his colleagues have demonstrated this over and over again, that mandatory training simply does not work. Think of it this way. If you wanted a 3-year-old child to eat peas and carrots, would you make them mandatory? Or would you have to figure out an interesting way in which peas and carrots become attractive? We have to do exactly the same thing, and my answer is through the science. When people of good reason, when people of good thinking look at the data, when they analyze and look at the evidence before them, they will want to change, because change here is good for business, and change means that our behavior comes to be in line with our own values. This area of research has expanded exponentially, not because of our work, but because of the work of thousands of other people who got excited about these results and took it into whatever area they were interested in. If they cared about fairness in education, that's where they studied it. If they were interested in fairness in healthcare, then that's where they studied it. So today, we know an awful lot, not just about the behavioral aspects of implicit bias, but we know an awful lot today about the brain basis of implicit bias. We know a great deal about the development of implicit bias. How does it begin in infancy and early childhood? We know today a great deal about the embeddedness of biases in what we would call large language corpora, as well as in large language models, in LLMs, which we rely on increasingly.